Welcome to Clif Chats. My name is Clifford Kaufman. I am a percussionist, educator, drummer here in Nashville, Tennessee. And today I'm talking with Rich Redmond, who is quite prolific. And I could go on and on all about him, but I'll just give some of the highlights because no joke, it would take the whole time to read his resume. But Rich is a longtime member, 20 years with the Jason Aldean band. He's played with Garth Brooks, Ludacris, Kelly Clarkson, Bryan Adams, Bob Seger, Chris Cornell, Joe Perry, Jewel, Miranda Lambert, Luke Bryant, Keith Urban, Derek Trucks, Florida Georgia Line, Rhett, Travis Tritt, and he's joining now. I'll keep introducing him as he joins in. He's played with Mickey Thomas from Jefferson Starship. Hello. Can you hear me?
Gotcha, man. How are you? Can you hear me?
Yes.
Nice.
Good to see you.
Your lighting is better today. I've been crazy. I'm on the go, and I'm painting my whole house, and so my studio is the catch-all for everything in the house until we get it painted.
I like the color. Are you going to keep that color? Or are you gonna change that?
Well, I changed the rest of the house, but I think this red is very. It's lucky red. I'm gonna keep it.
Okay, yeah, I like it. Well, I was just introducing you, and I'm gonna introduce you a little bit more, and then we can chat.
Great.
So I was saying if I read your resume, everyone you've played with, we seriously could be here all day. So I'm just reading some different highlights. Darius Rucker, Kenny Rogers, Rascal Flatts, the Pointer Sisters, Hank Williams III, Doc Walker, Kid Rock, and so many others. Rich has opened up on television, opened up many times for times on what is the trail of television? Oh, many different shows like Saturday Night Live, The Voice, American Idol, the Grammy Awards, The Tonight Show with Leno and O'Brien and Fallon, The Today Show, Jimmy Kimmel, and Good Morning America, and so many others. Rich has a podcast as well. He has books, educational materials. He's a motivational speaker. He's an actor, drummer, producer, so many hats. Well, thank you for joining me. We're both in Nashville. So you're at your place in Nashville, and what part of Nashville are you in?
I'm in Nippers Corner, which is really kind of like Old Hickory, exit Old Hickory. It's really a convenient area. It's kind of like the North Hollywood or Glendale of Nashville. So
okay. I've met with many friends there. Yeah, that's the first area I lived in when I moved to Nashville. Now I'm in Antioch.
Nice.
So we're live, and people tuning in, feel free to post any questions or comments.
Yeah, man, I'm gonna just turn this fan down one notch. This is about as real as it gets, guys. It's like raw and uncut.
All right. There's that. All right. Well, welcome. So when you were first maybe dreaming of being a professional musician, what did you envision?
Well, let's see. First of all, it starts with just kind of like restless energy. You know, thank God I'm like this kind of like hyper kid. Sometimes I'm the loudest guy in the room. I've learned to work on that and tame that. Nashville's been good for me. You know, the Southern charm and the pace of the South has slowed me down. I'm originally from, Connecticut. Yeah, I was just kind of hitting everything in sight. And I think secretly my dad wanted to be a drummer. And, I think my dad is like super proud. Both of my parents, of course, really proud that I pursued this thing. And it always starts with great parents. They could have said, no, you want to be a doctor or a lawyer. We'll send you to school. You go to school for 10 years and you're a doctor and you're making great money and you pay off your loans and you have this amazing lifestyle. And there's a plan. It's methodical. There's an outline for you. And as a musician, or as a creative of any kind, there's no path, and you have to figure that out for yourself. And that's scary to a lot of people. But I was like everybody. I was like into Kiss. When I was playing Pac-Man, I was into Kiss and Dungeons and Dragons, and I was into rock and roll. And I got drum lessons. And then as I started to get more educated about really what the music business was all about, I reaped what I sowed. I watched MTV and I saw guys like, you know, Kenny Aronoff with Mellencamp and Nigel Olsson with Elton John and Liberty DeVito with Billy Joel. And these are like celebrity sidemen, or they're sidemen with a lot of exposure and notoriety. And that's kind of like exactly what I ended up attracting to my life. That same kind of thing where it's like, you know, you get hired to do this thing every night consistently, exceed expectations, have a big smile on your face, deliver the goods. And as a result, you're able to have like a quality lifestyle. And then around that, if you want to have your own wedding band, you could do that. You could play at, you know, supermarket grand openings, you could write books, you can, you know, do other things around that. But it's always nice to have that base, that home base. And more than ever, to see these smiling faces, my guys in my band and Jason, we, you know, we hug each other. We're like, we're vaxxed, let's hug each other, and you know, and go and be able to do this and take the music to the people. Oh my God, it's so amazing. It's so incredible.
Yeah.
You know?
So does your life now look like you envisioned?
Yeah, you know, I don't think I had a clear vision of like, you know, I was never like a materialistic guy, like, I wanted like a red Lamborghini, or it was just like, I was just committed to the craft, you know, and like being in college, you know, I'm an overeducated rock drummer. I tell people I'm an overeducated rock drummer. And that means that I'm really, when I was in college or even just high school, you know, I practiced before school, I practiced during band class, I practiced at lunch, I brown bagged it, I practiced after school. I did the all city this and the all state that. And I just loved it. And I put in those 10,000 hours easy. I mean, I'm probably looking at 20, 30,000 hours. And in college, when everybody was on Saturday night going to keggers, you know, I would stay in and practice Japanese marimba or four mallet vibraphone and work on my timpani tuning, because I knew I had to do that stuff and work on my conga slap. But it really, like, I really knew that I was going to play drum set, but I just wanted to have these other things in my bag of tricks. And thank God, because that stuff is, it does come in handy. You know, if I'm in a room with some like West African hand drummers, I might not know the exact rhythm they're playing, but I have this fearlessness and a kind of a self-taught technique where I know how to get 5, 6, 7 different sounds out of the drum, and I'll just swim with the sharks. And then they'll look at me like, yeah, man, you know what I mean? It's just, I think there's just that fearlessness you have to have and doing anything, especially in the creative arts, you know, because, you know, there's always somebody better than you out there. But if you show up with a firm handshake, you're prepared, you got a big smile on your face, you're happy to be there, you could take direction, that is a career. Those are the soft skills of having a career in the creative arts. But really, those are the skills that make or break you, because you're expected to be great at what you do. But if you're a cool hang and you know, you're not talking about politics and religion all the time, and you could take direction without being offended, I mean, that's what makes you a great hang and makes you hireable. And people like to be around people that are enthusiastic and fired up and over prepared. And so that's kind of like the kind of energy that I've tried to bring to my life. And I don't even know if I answered the question, but there you go.
Yeah. Well, I mean, maybe, you know, it sounds like you were passionate and you just kept working on what you were interested in.
Yeah.
What was there a specific moment where you like realized I want to do this professionally? Like, I want to do this the rest of my life.
Yeah, I think it was when Synchronicity came out. So that's around 1983, the Police's kind of like Grammy moment, Every Breath You Take. And that was like a gateway drug for me to go back and look at their whole back catalog. And hey, who's this Stuart Copeland guy who's like an army brat who mixed like reggae and with a punk sensibility and Middle Eastern rhythms and world rhythms and kind of mixed it up. And then you got like Alex Van Halen. They came out with like a record called 1984. And it was just like, listen to that snare drum sound. This guy's using rototoms, and the pasties cymbals were like so identifiable, and just the sad. And then Terry Bozzio, I was like, MTV. I was like, that's what I want to do. I don't know how to do it. I'm in El Paso, Texas. There is no music business in El Paso, Texas. There's no connection to New York and LA. In El Paso, Texas, I just knew that, hey, if I work on my craft and I get my skill set together, and hopefully if I exceed expectations, people will go, hey, this kid, he's got something, and they'll tell their friends about it. But really, it was college. And even in college, Lubbock, Texas is in the middle of nowhere. There's no connection to the music business. Denton, Texas was closer to the music business because it was 30 miles outside of Dallas. Dallas to this day has a vibrant music scene. It's not LA, it's not Nashville, it's not New York City, but there's a lot going on in Dallas because you have all these great universities with these strong music education cultures and performance cultures, and they feed the city. So, the expectation for your musicianship in a city like Dallas is pretty high. So that was a great training ground. It really was. And then guest artists would come in and I'm like, hey, where do you live? And they're like, Los Angeles. Oh, where do you live? Oh, Atlanta, Georgia. Or where do you live? Oh, New York City. I was like, you got to go to the coast. You got to go to where the scene is. You got to go to the watering hole. You go to the Serengeti and you got zebras and rhinoceros and lions and elephants, and they're at the watering hole, and because they got to get their water. And so you got to go to where the action is. If you feel like you're going to be able to have a career as a touring musician living in Peoria, Illinois, or Fargo, North Dakota, ain't going to happen. It's just not going to happen. You got to go to where the work is,
Yeah, a lot fewer opportunities there. And so when you saw Synchronicity, was it just on TV and it just resonated with you when you saw the Police playing Synchronicity tour?
All those videos, and then, and also, oh, I'm so sorry, but like on MTV, there was like live concerts. There was like Live Aid. There was, the US Festival. Like they broadcast these concerts, which was like unbelievable, like uncensored, King Crimson live. Like what? You're not going to be able to find King Crimson on cable television now. It's too crazy. It's too niche. It's too left of center. But MTV was this bold, brave new thing. It's like, we're going to marry audio and video together. Video killed the radio star. And it was like, we were able to see just at the perfect time when it's like, whoa, if I play music, I can meet girls, and wow, I can maybe just be a rock star. And you see these guys doing it. You're like, wow, it seems within your reach. It's like right there on my television,
Yeah. And so you've been in Nashville for over 20 years now.
Yeah.
So what is it about Nashville that makes Nashville special, and what is it about Nashville that just really worked for you?
Yeah, Nashville has, I think, more than anywhere in the other music cities, has this undeniable sense of community where at 10 a.m. someone's going to write a song, someone's going to plug a song, someone's going to produce a song, someone's going to play on a song, somebody's packing their suitcase to go out on the road and bring the music to the people. There's all these cogs in the wheel, this web of life where it's like the song's got to be written. It all starts with the song, and then a demo musician has to bring it to life, and then a song plugger has to get it to the Keith Urbans, and the Fat Cats decide who's going to produce it, and then that guy's got to hire studio musicians, and a live band's got to be hired, and then around that there's chefs and stage managers and publicists and photographers. And so it's a really special place because the industry is here. The big machinery is here. I think that's why Taylor Swift called her record label big, her original recording contract on Big Machine Records. And that doesn't exist in Austin, Texas. I know it doesn't exist in really like in Atlanta, Georgia, or even like a Miami. Everything is here to make it an industry. Someone's got to drive the bus, and somebody's got to, there's a place for people in the music business, and just that sense of community. Like I said, like drummers know what that is. Drummers more than anyone else, I think, have that special fraternity. But I think more than a lot of other music cities that I've spent time in, Nashville has this, I've got your back. Let's lift each other up. Let's all kind of rise through the ranks together. And I've been playing with the same musicians for 24 years, and we finish each other's sentences. And, before you know it, we're all like multi-dosing on B12 and vitamin D because the doctor says you got a vitamin D deficiency. We take a year off, we come back, we're all wearing readers. Like, this is not a bad thing. This is an amazing thing because we mix business and pleasure, and we're friends, and friends can make really special music together. So if there's any people that are listening that are wanting to get into the business, or they're trying to get to that next step, see if you can find people that you get along with, not only professionally, but personally, because if you have that personal connection, you could ride on a tour bus together for 20 years and not kill each other. And that's really cool,
Yeah. Well, to find that people that you can still do that with is pretty amazing. And And what, like, any other ideas on how that happened for you, that you were able to find those people where you connected musically and interpersonally?
Well, I have a kind of a story, and I kind of outline it in my book, Crash Course of Success. It's on Amazon, thanks to Jeff Bezos, potato, pasty. If you have an idea, you can become an author, which is an incredible thing. You have an idea, you have a concept, you can get that thing out to the world. And I will give all the credit to a higher power looking out for me and honoring me with my hard work, and also people in this real world that championed me and took a chance on me and put my name out there. And in 1997, I met a guy named Kurt Allison, who to this day is one of my best friends. He knows me better than some people in my family. And we finished each other's sentences. I played in his dad's band, and we climbed the ranks together. 2 years into our relationship, he introduces me to a young bass player named Tully Kennedy, whose uncle was writing songs at Warner Chappell Music. A young Jason Aldean was signed to a publishing deal at Warner Chappell Music. A younger Michael Knox, who to this day is still Jason Aldean's producer, we're on our 10th record together, was producing Jason. Everybody championed each other. It was kind of a light audition where it's like, hey, we met this guy, Rich, hasn't let us down. He's got a lot of fire. He's overprepared. Let's bring him in. I hit it off with Kurt and Tully, who I already knew. Jason liked me. I liked him. He liked my preparedness. I hit it off with Michael, and time in the trenches together. And like, no matter what, no matter if you are sick with the flu, no matter if you have explosive diarrhea, no matter if you are on your deathbed, you show up and you show up. You know, when you show up for people, it's always a very memorable thing. And we just have accomplished so much together by championing each other. And I think that's kind of like my Nashville family tree. The first person I met in Nashville was a guy named Paul Ross. To this day has a band called Cadillacs, and it's like a society band where you start out, you play salad jazz, then you work your way into Motown, and by the end of the night you're playing YMCA by the Village People, and you're reading charts. And when I moved to Nashville, I was prepared to do that because I had gone to the University of North Texas. I had played in the 1 O'Clock Lab Band. We did professional gigs, professional recordings. I owned a tuxedo. I could play styles. So by doing that one gig, people saw me do that gig, and then they told their friends about it. And it's like a word of mouth industry. The music business is very much a word of mouth industry, not a resume industry. It's good to have a resume ready to go. Boom. It's like I do a little bit of acting. So when I'm in Los Angeles, I always have my headshots and my resume on my person, because if I go into a building on Wilshire Boulevard and for some reason I'm in an elevator with Steven Spielberg and he says, hey kid, what do you do? I got to be able to tell him that I'm a drummer, but also I do a little acting. Here's my resume. If you don't have that, you've ruined your opportunity. Some higher power is looking out for you. You weren't prepared. So preparation is very, very important thing in any of the creative arts, you know? So anyways, I feel like I'm a little manic today. I am talking so fast, but I think I'm just excited to be with you today, man. I drank too much coffee.
I'm glad you're here too. And I don't think you're talking too fast.
Oh, cool.
You're just getting some information out there.
Good.
So 24 years ago, touring with the Jason Aldean band, what was the lifestyle looking like that then as opposed to now? You'd mentioned B12 vitamins, and you know, how do you compare and contrast, or what is the compare and contrast?
Well, yeah, in the early days, you know, you're doing showcases. So, you know, driving minivans around Nashville and schlepping your drums into the exit in and SIR and sound check and the listening room and Tootsies. And you're hoping that the guys are going to come out and sign Jason to a record deal. And after many showcases later, Benny Brown saw that special something in Jason, signed him to a record deal. He wrapped his band around him. Michael Knox championed us. We recorded the record. The thing starts to climb the charts. And then you go out and you're in like, hey guys, this weekend we're in a 15-passenger van. And then a couple months later, you're like, all right, TG Shepard is going to loan us his tour bus. And it's like some 1970s tour bus with like, you know, brown, you know, wood grain paneling and velvet paintings of Elvis and dogs playing poker.
Wonder
and
what
you're
the
like,
history of
God,
that bus is.
yeah, you're like, oh my God, I hope this bus makes it to the gig. And it does. And you go and you play the gig in this small little bar somewhere, this college town or this county fair, and you treat it like Madison Square Garden. And then 10 years later, you play Madison Square Garden, right? And I tell everybody that all of us wanted to play Madison Square Garden when we were 21, but I played Madison Square Garden when I was 41. And that's like a lot of chutzpah and conviction and fire and persistence and determination and not accepting no for an answer. And then, you just got to realize that if you have a dream in life, you want to do something, you can't put a time limit on it. The only thing that's going to slow you down is, people get mad at me sometimes, but this is reality. Sometimes you're like, okay, you got a girlfriend, boom, she gets pregnant. Now all of a sudden you got to make money. So now you might go take that gig with that top 40 band. You don't like playing This Is How We Do It 7 times a week, but you got to put food on the table. So you might not be able to take the chance with that starving artist that's in a 15-passenger van with everybody taking shifts and taking turns sleeping on the floor. That's not going to work with the wife, or the girlfriend. So
you're telling my story a little bit. After being here a year, I had a baby. Yeah.
Well, this is great. And you know what's going to happen is that when you're older, hopefully your baby is going to return the favor. It's going to take care of you. And that's an awesome, awesome thing. But somehow I've got a couple marriages under my belt, but I was relatively footloose and fancy free with the sense that I could go and explore things. And, in the early days, Jason was an exploration, but when you stick with something and you believe in something and it paid off and God smiled upon us and we were all able to, reap the benefits of the follow through, and a lot of things have to happen at the same time. You got to have a great artist. He's got to have great songs. He's got to have the support system of a great label. Country radio's got to embrace you. The country video stations have got to embrace you. It's got to all kind of come together at the same time. And if one or two of those things are missing, it could very well not work. And this is, I'm sure, a very similar story with my great friend Jim Riley. Rascal Flatts, 20 years, became the band leader. Used that as a great platform to become a world-class educator, an author. And so, we take chances. Some things work out, some things don't. The things that do work out, you have to use it as a springboard for creating other platforms and successes for yourself so you can keep telling other versions of your story, So I have zero complaints,
Yeah. Well, it appears that you are constantly following your passion and reinventing yourself in some ways, with your different endeavors. How do you focus, or how do you find something that you're interested in and then put yourself fully into that without letting other things suffer?
Yeah, it's just like mostly, time management. And that's what I tell kids, they're like, hey, is like a college degree valid anymore? I can learn everything on YouTube and how-to videos and stuff. I'm like, yeah, but the in-person collegiate experience of having to learn about teamwork and persistence and jumping through hoops that you don't want to jump through and managing your time. Cause you're like, we got a college percussion ensemble concert that's towards the end of the semester. So we have 2.5 months to learn all the parts, get everything tight, and then do the concert. And then around that, there's barriers and tests and midterms, and you've got multiple classes, and you want to try to stay in shape, and you might want to have a social life, and you want to go home and visit your parents. This is time management 101. So I love that. I mean, if you get nothing else out of college, it's like learning how to go, wow, I need at least 4 hours sleep. So that leaves me with 20 hours. And how am I going to subdivide those 20 hours into things so I'm consistently moving forward on all things? And so I think I took that with me into my professional life. Even when I teach kids, I say, all right, you only got an hour a day to practice, 20 minutes on rudiments, 20 minutes on reading, and 20 minutes on styles and coordination. I'd rather you practice 4 hours a day when you're young. I'd rather you practice 10 hours a day when you're young, because as soon as the mortgage comes and the marriage and daddy, and there's no time for any of that stuff. So it's really good to get as many thousands of hours as you can as a younger person. But, you know, when you get so much time in the trenches, you know, I've got the sticks in my hands for thousands and thousands of hours. I don't necessarily have to do paradiddles every single day to maintain my chops. So maybe I'll go take a improv comedy class and take my time, and I'll put the effort into that. Or I'll do a cold reading acting class, or I'll study with a speaking coach who's going to help me get my speech and up to a higher level, or I'll study with a body language coach. And these things all kind of like come together to create, I hate saying it, some sort of a brand, you know, a thing that's like, oh, he's that guy. She's that gal. She does those things. And you might even have this deep well of things, other things you do. Like a lot of people don't know that I spang a lang, and that I can play a nice little songo, and I could play very soft. And I could still sight read the Cerrone book. They don't know that when my arm is way up here and I'm whapping backbeats. But that training has helped, because over the course of a 90-minute show, I am not going to miss a rim shot unless the stick breaks. And that's like tens of thousands of rim shots in a row. And that comes from that story that you tell, which is studying all these different things. Does the Japanese marimba 4-mallet kaikawabi thing help? Does learning how to play a beautiful cymbal roll on a Percy Granger piece help? Doing a thumb roll on a beautiful Grover tambourine, playing castanets, warming up a concert bass drum, playing a Sousa march. You better believe this is going to help you sound better just playing got, boo, boo, got. It's going to have more depth. It's going to have more sincerity. It's going to be more real. It's going to be deeper, you know? So you're never wasting your time exploring things that you're passionate about. It's going to all go into this pot to create your own tasty little recipe for music making, you know?
Yeah. Acting, has that changed your drumming in any way, do you think?
Well, I've always been kind of like, you know, an entertainer on the drums, because my heroes are guys like Gene Krupa and Kenny Aronoff and Ringo with the head bob and Carmine Appice with the spins. It's like, hey, if I'm going to be back here, I might as well draw this audience into my world instead of just disappearing into the fabric of the band. I don't do anything ever to sacrifice the time, the groove, the feel. So like, I'm not going to do floor tom rim shots and have the stick go 20 feet in the air and try to catch it without, because I'm going to miss something. But I have my little go-to things that are that help communicate and help entertain and are visual. And I've mastered these things, and they become part of my drumming DNA. Am I going to do that on some jazz gig or a film score date? No. But on the things that I get called for a lot, I get to be kind of like almost like a anime version of myself, especially if you're playing for 20, 25,000, 60,000 people. You have to be larger in life. And then there's a cameraman on me. I've got a camera above my right cymbal. I got a camera on my right foot. I got a camera over on my left side. And then I have a camera guy or gal, and I'm breaking that fourth wall and I stick my tongue out. I shout at the camera. I point at the camera so it's 3D. Then it goes to the big screens, and the people in the cheap seats are like, this guy's an animal. They're thinking like Keith Moon, you know, like, it's like, I like that. I like that. So that was always very natural. And so then the acting thing was just like, well, what could I do as a voiceover artist, a host, or an actor, comedic, dramatic, and not have a set of drums blocking my energy, essence, and personality? Can I be brave enough to go out there into the world and say something creatively without having this thing in the way? And I think it just makes you even more confident. And it's not like a money thing, like, because the difference between me and say a Tom Cruise, there is a massive chasm between me and Tom Cruise. But I love the craft, and I love the journey. And I'm a SAG actor, and I just got a check yesterday. It was a residual for $1.62. And you know what? That's okay, because I can.
Exactly?
Oh, SAG is the Screen Actors Guild, and there's AFTRA, which is the American Federation of TV, Radio Actors, something like that. And they joined forces, and also now they're part of the American Federation of Musicians. So SAG, AFTRA, AFM is all part of this big conglomerate. So whether you're playing on recording sessions, whether you're playing on live TV shows, or whether you're doing like all these different types of performances as an actor or as a musician, these societies have your back, and they follow a paper trail. So if I play on a song and it's in a movie that only ends up in hotel rooms in China on demand, they're following the paper trail, and they're going to get me paid. And if you and that's a great thing,
like
because
BMI or an organization like that.
Well, yeah, BMI, exactly, because BMI and CSAC and ASCAP are performance royalty organizations, which are tracking the paper trail for singer-songwriters. So the intellectual property. So we need these kind of organizations in our life, because musicians have a tendency to really get screwed. You know, so we can use all the help we can get. So thank God for those organizations.
Yeah. And when did you first start writing as well?
I started writing songs in 2011, and I had a publishing deal for 5 years, and I ended up having,
as well as the other aspects of music, or were you doing all the aspects?
Oh, I was doing it all at the same time. So like when I got a publishing deal, it was a really wonderful period of my life. Because what I do is when I'm on the road with the Jason Aldean, the way we tour out of Nashville, as you know, is a lot of it is very Thursday, Friday, Saturday. Then we come back to Nashville.
Like when we're emailing about this, you're like, hey, Thursday, those are, you know, for touring musicians, those are not the best days.
Those are the bad days. Yeah. Monday and Tuesday are touring musicians, Friday and Saturdays, right? So that's when we see our loved ones or our actual in-town friends. Like right after this interview, I'm going to get some fresh homemade pasta and fresh homemade sauce with a composer friend of mine who's been asking me to come to his house for pasta and wine for months. And I'm like, we're doing it tonight, right? But for those 3 days a week, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, I would do recording sessions. And I did that for a decade, playing on demos, playing on custom records, playing on records you'd hear on the radio. And then when I got the publishing deal, I decided to take a break from that. I still did recording sessions. It's like my schedule's kind of like Tetris, first come, first serve. You know, it all becomes part of the thing. But I was always trying to write at least one song a day every Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday. I did that for 5 years. I was able to have artists in South America and Canada and Europe record my songs. And then also some friends of mine called the Wolf Brothers, this really popular band, country pop band in Australia. They recorded 3 songs that we wrote together, and they all went #1, which is really a fun, interesting story to say, like, hey, I got 3 #1 songs recorded by a Tasmanian pop country band. You know what I mean? So yeah, so pretty fun, you know.
Play and produce on those as well?
I played on one of their records. I don't know if I ended up playing on the songs that made it to the record. It gets a little nebulous because they have a live drummer and maybe they had him. I don't know. It gets a little murky, but I know that I played on at least one of their records, and I'm just happy that they, you know, enjoyed spending that time with me and they liked what we came up with enough to record those songs. And that's the whole thing about writing nowadays. It's really hard to write a song, have it go into a hard drive. It turns into an MP3. You got to get that MP3 through all the gatekeepers to finally get to a Keith Urban or a Luke Combs. The best thing to do is to write the song with Keith Urban or Luke Combs, and then there's no gatekeepers, right? So that's really kind of how it's done nowadays. So the moral of the story there is like my crash concept for success: committing to your craft, relationships, everything in life, bringing a positive attitude, bringing your skill to the table, and then no matter where you are in life, staying hungry for success and continuing to reinvent yourself. And so I try to live by that concept, and it's so easy to remember and so easy to check in with yourself. Hey, am I still equally committed to my craft? Am I putting in the work? Am I cultivating the relationships that I've built throughout my life? Am I bringing a positive rainbows and unicorns attitude being able to take direction from people, bringing that enthusiasm to the studio, bringing that enthusiasm to the stage? Do I still work on the skills that I need, but at the same time developing new skills? And am I bringing that passion, that fire, and that hunger that burns in my belly to be successful to the table? And so it's really easy to kind of check in with yourself. And then that became a springboard for my speaking. So when I go and I talk to a Hewlett Packard or a Microsoft or a Cisco or a mom and pop music store or a startup or big pharma or a farmer, I can use that concept as a springboard and then mold my speech and then give them exactly what they want. So it hits their employees over the head and we have a rah-rah session and everybody comes away and goes, wow, I was entertained. That dude sweat all over me. He spit all over me, which isn't very COVID friendly right now. And I walked away with like this cool message. And so that's my goal, is to give, because it's way cooler to give than receive. If you're giving all the time, you will eventually receive, you know, especially if you don't expect to receive, you know, receiving will come in these crazy, unexpected ways, you know?
Yeah. Well, yeah. And a lot of what you're saying, I've found that to be true in Nashville, what you're saying about the community. I've never experienced such a community oriented place where people are, you know, genuinely wanting to see you succeed. And
Yeah.
I think it's interesting because it's almost, and I don't know if you see it this way, but it's almost like there's like farm teams or like different levels of different things happening. And I think that's partly, that's one of the reasons why. I mean, there's many reasons why. But so when you're writing songs, are you writing on guitar, piano, or what's your approach to writing music?
Yeah, I haven't written in a while. I kind of filled up the last couple of years with the speaking, and I was teaching at Musicians Institute and writing my book and doing sessions here at Crash Studio for people all over the world. But when I was not really the greatest guitar player, but I come with ideas, I come with stories, I come with song titles. I bring my djembe, I bring my rhyming dictionary, and I'm like the positive guy in the room with the big picture vision of like where that song.
Almost all co-writes? Were these almost all with other people?
Always co-writes. Usually I would never do a write with less than 3 people, because usually someone's a guitar player, someone's amazing at Pro Tools, and someone's a great singer. So I'm like the big picture guy in the room. You know, that's why like drummers make great producers, because we can see the finished product well down the line. Like, hey, this is a great feel. It's going to work on radio. This is a magic tempo. Ooh, let's slow it down a little bit because you're having a hard time getting your phrasing in and catching your breath. And then, ooh, I think that needs like a U2 kind of like edged guitar thing there. And hey, let's break down this third verse. We see those things in the distance way ahead of time. And I think that's why people like to write with drummers, you know?
Yeah. What is an example of a magic tempo?
120, it's the people's tempo, you know, marching bands.
Can move to that tempo.
Yeah, and it's, if you slice it in half, it's 60 BPM, which is a second on your clock, right?
Yeah.
And so like I taught a lesson today, I teach a lot online, and you know, one of my backbones of my teaching philosophy is, you know, page 37 out of the Ted Reed book, dot 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 dot. So I want people to be able to sing it, scat it, count it. I have rules for sticking. As soon as they can do it on one surface, we start adding the feet, and then we start breaking the limbs up. And I have a million ways to play that page. And I forgot why I brought that up. What were we talking about?
Well, I was going to ask you about, so you said you were teaching, was it
online? Oh yeah. Teaching online. Like this year, my good friend Stuart Jean, he runs the music program, the performance program for all instrumentalists and all instrumental teachers at the Musicians Institute. Famed school, started in the 70s, I believe 70 or 71, heart of Hollywood and Highland. And I am usually good for a in-person clinic there once a year, because Stuart really champions me. And it's mostly a lot of Angelino drummers that come in. So Shakira's drummer, and you know, maybe some big pop act or a funk act. So he's like, you guys need to know what's happening in Nashville. So he'll bring me in, do the thing. I talk to the kids about the importance of reading music and styles and the Nashville number system and how to get gigs and keep gigs and play with clicks and overdub percussion. So all this the stuff that maybe a lot of people don't talk about. And then this year with the COVID thing, or last year, he's like, you know, we're going online, and there was 2 brick and mortar in-person classes. They were called Reading 3 and Reading 4. There's 4 reading classes. So I took the brick and mortar Reading 3 and 4 classes, and I helped put them into an online version, which is great because I had to learn this learning management system to do the coding, to get the you know, and that took up some nice time, and I learned a new skill. And then I also taught the classes online where, you know, I've got the kids on Zoom, and they would email me their videos of them playing the stuff, and I'd be like, great, but you're not using your left foot, or you're rushing, or you're dragging, or you missed the figure going into the second verse. So it was an interesting way to teach, but I think for the most part, the kids enjoyed it. I enjoyed it. Got me out of bed every day. Like, hey, at 9 a.m. West Coast, I had to be up, you know, with my hair fixed and my coffee, ready to try to impart some wisdom, you know.
And so you're critiquing their videos and helping them find areas to work on when you see the videos.
Yeah, it was mostly a reading class, so like I couldn't like really double down on like, well, you know, you could play tighter with the click here, or you should use a different fill there. It was more about like, are they catching the figures? Can they count? Are they using my sticking rules? It was cool. It was cool. It was just, you know, you're in front. Spent a lot of COVID in front of staring at this little green light, you know.
Yeah. So playing with the same people for so long, you know, when people try to teach feel, I find it to be really, it can be really ambiguous.
Sure.
But how has the feel developed? You know, do you aim to just play right on the beat? Have you found that certain band members, you know, they're naturally going to be there and you're just going to lay it back, or how does that work for you?
Yeah, it's a really good question. Time, groove, and feel, you know, so it's like everything's got to be in time. It's got to feel good, and it's got to groove, and everybody's got a different definition of kind of what feel and groove are. Now, time is time. So when I work with people, I'm like, look, we're humans. So we want to rush, we want to drag. We're not perfect, but by playing with something that is inhuman, the metronome's like a honey badger. Honey badger just don't care. You know what I mean? So it's like, boom, it's going to show you all your defects and your isms around certain tempos where you want to push things and where you pull. So it's great to work with a metronome. It's also great to practice along with records with bands that didn't record their records with clicks, like Zeppelin, the Beatles, the Who. It's also great to practice with records from the last 20 years that are just sliced and diced and perfect on the grid. So that helps your flow. And then I think that like 99% of touring acts these days, if there's a big amount of production, they're playing with clicks, they're playing with Ableton, they're playing with Pro Tools. They've got to lock with some sort of a sequence. So when you're playing with a sequence, it's like you gotta. I'm playing eighth notes, AC/DC, boom, crack, but I'm thinking of the 16th notes, and I'm trying to. That can't budge. And so even if the guys are excited that night, they have had too much Monster Energy or whatever, or they're jet lagged, I still have got to lay that sucker in there and be the most reliable person for them, kind of like a conductor like Leonard Bernstein. I've got to be the most reliable person in the band. And then there could be a song like Pick Down that's 123 BPM, and I'm just playing with the shaker. So if I want to push the chorus a little bit, I can do it. But as a general rule, I do try to sit in the middle of it because it's uncomfortable to hear the flamming of the click and the drums. So I try to bring this like insane, never playing with a click, 16-year-old sweaty energy to it, but at the same time, trying to bring the precision of a Jeff Porcaro, John Robinson type guy. So like our band is a studio band that never wants to lose sight of youth and youth culture and that unbridled like Rocky One, you know, Rocky One, where he was just a street fighter. He had muscles, but he didn't have muscle tone. And then when he figured out about creatine and all, and he was just shredded, right? It was just like, we want to bring that unbridled, youthful thing to that. And I think that's what makes that band so special and so unique, is that even if we've been together for 20 years, we're still trying to tap into that thing. And I think people can pick up on that energy, you know? But usually I'm in the middle of the beat guy, you know? But playing live, a good way to soften the blow of playing with a click is don't have a click that's like, definitely don't have a click that's like, I mean, that feels like a NASA launch, or something's about to explode. Or, you know, I'm Sigourney Weaver playing Ripley in Aliens 1, and the ship's about to blow, and I got to get my cat and get off. No, I just want it to sound like a musical instrument. So I recommend a shaker. So like, and then it's just like you're with a percussionist. It's like Walfredo Reyes is in the band with you, man, and you're friends, and you just went and had black beans and plantains, and you're playing together, you know, and that's way more fun.
Yeah. Speaking of Walfredo Reyes, he was one of my first drum clinics when I was a kid. And I was gonna have Danny De Los Reyes on with Chris Fryer, and he had a family emergency, and he said, I'll get a sub for you. And so last minute the sub was Walfredo Reyes.
Look at that.
Yes, that was
what an amazing talent. When you think about being able to go from playing with Roland V drums and making it sound incredible with Lindsey Buckingham, to Santana, which is like, you better know your deal. You better know your partito alto and your samba and your batucada and your bossa nova and ska and reggae and rock, and be able to wear all the hats and sound like a percussionist and a drummer and work with the other, and then go to Chicago and play with a horn band and drive that bus. I mean, that is awesome. And that's what I strive for as well, to make like whatever I do as real as possible, you know?
For sure. And I'm actually talking about his dad, Senior.
Senior, yeah. Oh my God. I had a couple of dinners next to him at the Percussive Art Society, maybe like 2 years in a row in Indianapolis. We'd go to these LP parties, and LP would like treat us to a nice filet mignon, and we'd all pass the buttered garlic potatoes around and just sit there and wait till the cappuccinos were coming out, and to listen to all these incredible stories, and you know how he passed all the wisdom down to his sons and encouraged his sons. That, like, man, just a beautiful guy, you know?
Yeah, it's incredible, the musical legacy there. So back to when you're playing with the band, does everybody have clicks? Are you all using in-ears? Do you use wedges?
Yes, in the early days of Aldean, it was, and a lot of acts, baby acts that start out. And this was, and you got to remember, this is 2003, 2004, 2005. We were on wedges because we were opening up for people. We're playing nightclubs, we're playing county fairs, playing rock clubs, you're playing outdoor things, and everybody just got wedges. And I would have a Tama rhythm watch. This is a nice hack for anybody that finds them in this situation. If you find yourself in this situation, you want to be more reliable, more consistent. I just got those little Shure stock inner monitors, $100. Tama rhythm watch, $100, runs on 9-volt, where you plug it into a wall wart, and you can store 30 tempos. And I put my in-ear monitor in the left ear, tuck the right side under my shirt, put the wedge over here so I can hear at least the lead vocal and the kick drum. If I have the lead vocal and the kick drum, I'm going to hear the guitar player. He's always too loud. Bass player's right here by my hi-hat. As long as you have that vocal, that's who's telling the story. That's who's cutting your check. That's who needs the most support. And then the kick drum, have that. I always say, like, just make it sound like Lars Ulrich. Just give me that high-end click so I can hear it. And a lot of times you're throw and go. You know, you're with some house monitor guy, doesn't always know what he's doing. He's overly stressed. He's overly worked. I'm like, give me a little vocal and give me a little kick drum. I'll take care of the rest. I'll get through the show. And then around 2006, 2007, we started doing bigger venues, and we all made the transition into in-ear monitors. And then we started passing the click around. And that's where everybody didn't want that. They wanted a shaker. I think my band would kill me if I didn't have a shaker sound, you know. And you can have a shaker sound and from a drum machine. You can get it from Pro Tools. You can get it from Ableton. You can use an SPD-SX or an Octapad. as a click source, and they all have cool shaker sounds, you know?
And so does everyone have that shaker sound in their
Oh yeah.
now?
Yeah, because that way, think about this. Say there's an intro to a song and it starts with a 4-bar guitar intro, and I don't come in until the pre-chorus.
Mm-hmm.
That's 12 bars of no drums. So
Yeah.
what you have to do in that situation is you have to kind of politely be like,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's cool. That works. But the production value goes up 100% when that guitar is by himself, perfectly in time, and there's a spotlight on him. The whole band is dark.
Mm-hmm.
And then we come in 12 bars later, bam!
Yeah.
Right? So that's why it's so crucial, A, to be able to generate a click and play with a click comfortably. And like, you know, don't people overthink it. You know, it's just like, got to practice to the point where you can play with a click no matter what by yourself, like wearing an old pair of shoes. And then the next skill set is playing with a click in a musical way while the band potentially could be pushing and pulling you. You go into a Nashville recording session with some of the A, B, C top dog guys, you're not really going to get pushed and pulled because these guys do it all day long, every single day. It's just part of their DNA. And my band, the band I play with 20 years, yeah, it's so comfortable, you know?
Yeah.
It's awesome when you meet new people, you know, or maybe I meet younger musicians that don't have the experience. And you have to just like, you might have to turn them down a little bit and turn the loop up just a little bit because you can't stray from the loop. Mm-hmm. And so at the same time, that can lead to unmusical playing because first of all, you got to figure out who's your ally. Bass player is your ally. If the acoustic guitar player is good, he's your ally because that's the hi-hat part. And then the vocal is your ally. And even if you're playing on a record where the singer isn't very good, I still crank that thing because they are singing the song, they're emoting. Maybe they wrote the song. Maybe it took them 10 years to get the gumption and the guts to write that song. So how selfish would it be for me to crank a click and turn down their vocal? I'm not going to play very musically if I can't hear the story. You know, even if I have a chart, I'm going to play more musically if I can hear that vocal, you know?
Yeah. Yeah. And so in Ableton, when did that become part of what you all used?
Right? Ableton has been, you know, I'd say for the last decade, it started as a program for DJs. And I think people just saw the reliability factor. It never crashes. It's very powerful. So a lot of bands are using Ableton, and sometimes it falls on the drummer back to do it, or sometimes it falls on the MD, the music director, and that's usually like a keyboard player. And then sometimes there'll be a full-blown dude. It could be the drum tech, or it could be one of the monitor engineers that's kind of running that whole thing. And it's just not going away because people love to have the flexibility and the power of having those hand claps with your snare drum, or having that very loud shaker that brings the chorus to life, or maybe have those background vocals tucked in there. We don't do that. We're just like a band. We got some drum loops in there, but we're just like dudes playing our instruments, you know? But there is a lot of bands out there where there's a lot going on. And as a drummer, you got to be able to navigate that and create a cue mix for yourself that's comfortable for you to sit in there, do your job, execute consistently night after night, but most importantly, play musically. So shape the vocal, know the dynamics of going into a bridge, coming in out of the bridge, going into a breakdown, where the big fills are, because fills have personalities. Some fills sound like they're going to take you somewhere, and some fills sound like they're going to take you out of something. And all this stuff just comes from listening and time in the trenches and experience and getting yelled at and listening to recordings and being embarrassed and like making notes. It's just such a journey, you know, and if you're committed to the journey, you'll be successful. You know, it's when you try to rush that journey. It's like, oh my God, if I don't make it or get a national touring gig in 5 years, I'm going to go sell insurance. It's like, no, it's like, you just got to stay in the game, you know?
You gotta love it and continue to do it. What So I lost my train of thought. What? So when
Happens to me all the time.
uh, let's see. Well, I had a few different questions, but we're almost out of time. And I really appreciate you taking the time and sharing, you know, all the info about from your experience, because, you know, you have a lot of experience and it's
Thank you
to a lot of people. If I think of it, I'll email you. What is, now that, you know, things are starting to open back up more, and hopefully we continue on that path. What are some things that you're excited about?
Right now, my most exciting thing in my life is riding on a bus with all my best friends and seeing all these same smiling faces from the last 22 years, and realizing with ultimate gratitude and humility, just how lucky I am. And we all worked really hard, but at the same time, it's like when we all wake up in the morning and we're sharing a coffee and catching up a little bit, and we're all going to get a little workout together, or going to a sound check, or hanging out backstage together, and seeing those smiling faces out there and the effect we're having on them. It's just like my greatest thrill right now is just, you know, seeing my best friends and entertaining the masses, the people that have been starved for music, that are coming out, they're spending their hard-earned money. You know, such a responsibility to them. And I just have such gratitude and appreciation for that thing. And I have other great things happening in my life. You know, I got a beautiful girlfriend. We live in 2 cities, and I'm going to spend the first 10 days of September in sunny Los Angeles, which has a whole other kind of music culture, and, you know, the palm trees. And I have other friends out there that I like visiting. And then, you know, Nashville is, it has been so good to me. So then to come back here, and I moved back into a home from years ago that, you know, I'm repainting, and I come out and I can wave to the neighbors in the morning, and there's a deer in my front yard, and it's really nice. I'm really excited about life. And I got a new habit. Like during COVID, I made a commitment to run no less than 5 miles a day. I just ran and ran and ran like Forrest Gump. And it made such a difference in my life, because I've always been a runner, always was committed to some sort of exercise. But when you do anything consistently, whether it be exercise, meditation, prayer, reading, practice, you will see the results, because it's better to do something 20 minutes every day than only 1 day a week for 5 hours on Saturday. So if there's a practicer out there, you want to practice.
I tell kids the same thing all the time.
It's the consistency, just showing up. Like last night, I was running around my neighborhood 10:30 at night, and I was like, I hope I don't get attacked by a coyote. But, you know, it's 80 degrees in Tennessee, and I'm just covered in off bug spray. But I got that run in. When I came back to my house, I was very proud of myself. And I looked in the mirror, and I was a foot taller, because you make that commitment to yourself and you do it no matter what. And so I'm kind of really excited about that new habit that I have of like going out there and doing it. And that helps your drumming, man. Because when I'm out there and it's 100 degrees in St. Louis, and we got 100% humidity, and there's pyro on stage, I can pull through. I've got the stamina to do it, you know, and that comes from the commitment to some sort of physical activity every day.
Yeah. Have you experienced, now this commitment to running, have you experienced the runner's high?
Oh yeah, man. When you're done, your chest and your heart is pounding out of your chest, and you're so drenched, and you take your shirt, and you can just literally just wring it out. You're like, oh my God, if I could bottle this would be some sort of a like disgusting cologne. It's just great. I love it. I really do.
Nice. I'm a runner as well. And it's good. Last night it was pretty, when I was running, it was, I think it was 88 degrees when I was running.
Good for you. See, like, and I've got another friend. They're like, yeah, listen to your podcast and run at like 2 a.m. No one's on the road. I'm like, 2 a.m. That's a little crazy for me. But and so you make a living, don't you do like a lot of hand drumming and drum circle type stuff?
Yeah, I do a lot of like West African drumming, like leadership development, and team building sort of things.
That's great. And so for a lot of companies, because like Dell is here, and you got a lot of breweries here, and
Yeah, I haven't done anything for Dell. It looks there's some things in the works with some like something for Bonnaroo and as part of
great.
a liquor company, which I won't say until it's happening. And then there's a mom's convention. So yeah, just kind of those sort of things. But you know, I also like a cool thing about this mom's convention is I'm getting to create percussion parts, like polyrhythmic parts that fit with vocals for a performance. So uh,
Wow.
yeah, so,
So
so
you're
that's kind
really
of,
into the West African polyrhythmic structure. Did you like study it like formally, or?
yeah. I've traveled to West Africa to study, and have been fortunate to have some pretty amazing teachers from West Africa.
Wow.
But it's not all. I mean, I play drum set too, and just you know, and write instrumental music. So just it's just one
Great.
part of what I do, but it's definitely something that you know is a big influence.
That's awesome, man. You see, everybody's got their like strengths that they can like, kind of monetize and bring enjoyment to their life. And then you can have some other things you can do on the side that isn't necessarily always about money.
For sure, for sure.
Yeah.
Well, thank you so much. It's good, you know, it's good to talk with you. When I moved to town a little over 5 years ago, Bruce Becker gave me your number and we chatted, and you gave me some, you know, some of your wisdom. And then I ran into you at the Apple store. So I think we've only met in person one time.
That's crazy. Well, I
Yeah.
love Bruce. And did you move here from Los Angeles?
No, I actually moved here from Portland, Oregon, but I was taking
Mm.
lessons with Bruce online. Yeah.
Yeah, Portland is the first place I ever went. Are we allowed to go over or no?
Oh yeah. No problem.
That was the first place I ever enjoyed sushi on a boat on the conveyor belt. They have a lot of those sushi restaurants.
I've
So
probably been to
cute.
that
You're like,
restaurant. Yeah.
you probably went to the same one. It's just like, I was like, this is so cool. And you feel like you might be overeating because sometimes there's only like two pieces on a tray, and they're color coded, like green, red, yellow, with different prices. I loved it, man. It's a really, forward thinking culture.
Definitely. Yeah, well, I really I really appreciate you taking the time. Have a great Italian dinner with your friend.
That's
Uh,
right.
and as things is opening back up, I'll, you know, if you're in town doing something, I'll try to come check it out.
Oh, let's do it. Let's just go grab a coffee or a cerveza, as
Yeah.
my friends say. Yeah, that'll be perfect. And I think you're doing a great thing here, man. Anytime you can share the information with a community, and drummers are as thick as thieves, man. So thanks for having me.
Yeah. And thank you everyone for tuning in. So check out Rich Redmond, it's website richredmond.com, I believe. Is that correct?
Yep,
Um,
that's perfect. You'll find everything there.
Yep, education stuff, speaker. If he's available, play on tracks, produce,
Yeah.
those things. We'll have a great weekend.
Thank you so much. Everyone have a great night.